He could move markets with a phone call, yet no one picked up when he needed a friend. Money came fast. Silence came faster. Adrian Malik grew up over a Brighton convenience shop, counting coins while his mother counted shifts. His grandfather, a 1930s dock worker, used to point at the old seafront hotel and say, "In hard times, roofs matter more than dreams." The hotel was built in 1931, a Depression-era gamble that failed within 5 years. It stood faded and wind-bitten, a relic of optimism interrupted. Adrian studied the algebra of power, balance sheets, basis points, the quiet leverage hidden in ordinary things. At 25, he was a junior trader. At 32, he co-founded a fund and learned what markets really rewarded: liquidity when others were thirsty and patience when others were loud. He bought distressed debt during the 2008 crisis, securities that looked like trash because fear had mispriced them. He learned to love the spread, the small daily river of carry that, when disciplined, became a sea. When the fund crossed £5 billion in assets, Adrian stood on the balcony of his glass office and finally purchased the decaying 1931 hotel. He would restore it. He would rewrite the family story. Wealth filled the rooms of Adrian's life, but it left the hallways empty. Colleagues toasted him. The city papers ran profiles with titles like The Brighton Oracle. His phone glowed with congratulations, dinner invitations, and deals. None of it sounded like belonging. Renovation began with the obsessive precision Adrian brought to trades. Every window resealed, every ledger checked. Yet he measured the project like a portfolio position. Cash burns, expected IRR, yield on total cost, while forgetting the simplest budget item: time spent with people who were not paid to be there. He dated someone brilliant for a year. She left quietly, saying, "You're generous with everyone's future, but you're stingy with the present." He nodded, then returned to models that never asked him to change. One evening, the hotel's architect found him wandering the unfinished ballroom. A single bulb swung above the parquet like a pendulum, slicing light into thin, judgmental lines. On the wall hung a framed cigarette advertisement left from the 1950s refurbishment. Women in evening gowns, men in tuxedos. The promise of brightness. You know, the South Sea Bubble funded a surprising amount of gorgeous woodwork. Money has a way of leaving beauty behind when it explodes. Adrian smiled, but the words stuck like grit. He started reading at night. The railway mania of the 1840s, fortunes that rose on iron and steam, 1720s South Sea promises, 2008's mortgage alchemy. The repeating moral unnerved him. Wealth aggregates faster than judgment, and crowds don't notice the cost until the invoice arrives. The invoice came in a subtler form. His mother fell ill. He rearranged meetings, flew to appointments, authorized the best care. In the hospital's beige light, success felt like an efficient machine that could not hug back. He realized he'd built a portfolio resilient to recessions, but fragile to absence. The hotel opened on a rain-silvered evening, brass letters gleaming against the storm. He had restored the 1931 facade, kept the Art Deco geometry, and added a rooftop bar with a view that held the entire curve of the bay. The mayor gave a speech, journalists gathered quotes, and a string quartet tried to persuade the storm to behave. During the ribbon cutting, Adrian spotted an elderly man in a caretaker's jacket standing apart. The man introduced himself as Haresh Patel. His father, he said, had been a bellboy in the hotel's brief first life. In 1934, Harish told him, "My father carried bags for couples who had saved for one night of feeling wealthy. They wore borrowed tuxedos and mended dresses. He said the hotel made people stand taller." Adrian walked with Harish through the lobby. They paused at a wall plaque Adrian had commissioned, reopened 2025, dedicated to the workers who kept hope polished. Harish traced the letters. "You know what made this place special?" he asked. "Not the brass, the welcomes." A squall rattled the windows. Adrian looked at the mirrored ceiling and saw his own reflection multiply. One man, many angles, a crowd made of himself. In that unsettling kaleidoscope, he understood the equation he'd never written. Wealth solved for risk and return, but not for meaning. Meaning required friction with other lives. Coffee with an old friend, a walk with his mother, listening without checking yield. He turned to his chief of staff. "Open the ballroom twice a month to the community. Free events, music from local schools, teach seminars on budgeting and fraud so people don't get trapped by shiny promises." She stared, then nodded. "And set a rule," he added, almost surprising himself. "I leave the office by 6 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, no calls. I'll be here, present." Adrian's fund kept compounding. He didn't pretend otherwise. But he no longer mistook motion for connection. He learned a quieter discipline, scheduling dinners with no agenda, visiting his mother with nothing to fix, hosting evenings where the ballroom's light made strangers recognize themselves in one another. The hotel stopped being a monument to his victory and became a hinge between past and future. Wealth turned outward. History had warned him. Fortunes rise, monuments remain, but without welcome, they become empty museums of self. In markets and in life, he realized, the highest return is not always the highest number. It is the dividend of presence, the yield you feel when someone says your name and means it.